The next one is going to be this is I don't have who it's from, but Sony acquires Returnal developer Housemarque and hints at Bluepoint being next. So Sony has acquired Housemarque, the Finnish studio behind recent PS5 exclusive Returnal, the company announced today. It was announced with a tweet which suggests Sony might also be about to acquire Bluepoint Games, the studio behind recent Demon's Souls remaster. In a blog post announcing the acquisition, PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst said the studio is one with incredible vision, capable of creating memorable new games that resonate within our community. Although Housemarque has produced games across multiple platforms, including PC, iOS, and the Xbox 360, the majority of its recent titles have been exclusive to Sony's platforms. Prior to Returnal, it was best known for Super Stardust games, which have appeared on the PS3, PS4, and PSP. News of the Housemarque acquisition arrived alongside a tweeted image that suggests Sony is about to acquire another studio. It appears that when Sony PlayStation's Japan Twitter account tried to tweet about the Housemarque acquisition, it accidentally used a promotional image announcing an acquisition of Bluepoint Games instead. The high quality of the image suggests it's official, but premature. The original tweet and image have since been pulled, but Twitter user Nibel has verified via TweetDeck that the image came from the official PlayStation Japan account. Bluepoint Games is another studio with a long history of collaborations with Sony, as well as the recent Demon's Souls remaster. It also remastered other PlayStation titles like Shadow of the Colossus, the Uncharted trilogy, and Flower. Adam, is it pretty much all but certain that Bluepoint is going to be acquired by Sony?
If Nibelian is saying yes, then yes, I think we can confirm it. Nibelian's really heavy on the accuracy with these things, so if he's saying that it's a legit thing and the quality of this is legit. Yeah, no, it's a thing that's going to be happening. And I don't think anybody's really surprised by this because basically since Demon's Souls was first announced as being remade by them, everybody just assumed it was going to be a thing at some point because most of what they've been doing in the last 10 years has been ports for PlayStation. So it makes sense that if you're giving guys, a pretty big franchise in Demon's Souls, and not only did they get it, but they did a fantastic job with it, you rein those suckers in before it's too late because somebody else will.
Yeah, 100%. Now, yeah, I can see that. I think it's all but certain that Bluepoint is going to get acquired as well. What are your thoughts about these acquisitions? Are these worthwhile acquisitions for Sony, or do you have different opinions?
If you're talking right now, I don't think it's meaningful. Like, I'm not gonna say like, oh man, they got Housemarque, that's a big deal. Oh, they got Bluepoint, that's a big deal. This is for 5-10 years down the road when we see what the next big things that they do on their own are. We saw obviously Returnal has been pretty well received. Demon's Souls was obviously really well received, but Demon's Souls for Bluepoint was a remake and not its own original game. So it's really a question of, okay, what happens if these guys have their own thing? There is also the interesting rumor that's been going on for a while now that Bluepoint was working on a Metal Gear Solid remake collection. So who knows? But I mean, if these two are like Bethesda level, they're not even like 10% Bethesda level. This is very minor acquisitions that may end up churning out some pretty amazing content for them down the road, but this isn't a needle turner. I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh, I got to buy a PS5 now because they got Housemarque.
Yeah.
And it's not to take a shot at Housemarque. It's just saying like, look, they aren't a needle turner at this point in their life cycles.
Yeah, and I would say like, and this is no shade against Housemarque, but they're a pretty niche studio that I think like the hardcore, people in the industry and the hobby know. But like, if you went to anyone and said like, even to be honest, the games that they make aren't games that people know off the top of the head. Like, they're not celebrated, they're not talked about. Like, we're not looking at something like a Fallout or a Last of Us or Battlefield or something like they're a small developer. And even Returnal, I mean, it got some traction, but it's not something that people are still hugely talking about right now. And so, I mean, it's certainly good to see the portfolio grow, and Housemarque is good at what they do. They are a fantastic studio at what they do, but they are I would argue, a niche studio for a particular group of gamers. You made an interesting comment of seeing like where Bluepoint goes in terms of creating their own thing. I don't think that Bluepoint will ever make their own game. And I don't say ever like forever, ever, but I meant like in the foreseeable future. I think Bluepoint has found a niche in that they are fantastic creators of remastered properties. And so I can see Sony using them to kind of go into their back catalog and just say, hey, start picking titles, start picking IPs, and just make them your own. And that's what I see Bluepoint doing. So I think Bluepoint makes a little bit more sense, just because Sony does have that IP that they want to start making new games for. You've seen the success with Ratchet and Clank. You've seen this. Well, that was remastered in 2016, but I don't think that was Bluepoint. But you're also seeing, all the other ones that they've done that have, done great. Even that ones that weren't done by Sony exactly, but like, Crash Bandicoot. What the heck's the dragon one? Oh my god, why is it Spyro? Thank you. Spyro the Dragon, like those remasters are doing really well, and I think Sony's kind of seeing an opportunity that they can go into their back catalog, and if they have a niche developer who can just start turning those out at low cost, with pretty good return.
Yeah, you get those guys on like
awesome.
Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper, like you've got something right there.
Yeah, and people are clamoring for them. Everyone has a title that they say, I'd love to have a remake of blank. And now they have a studio that can literally just project after project be doing that.
And seem to do it pretty high quality too.
And Sony could even have a situation, like imagine if Sony had a situation where it's like, hey, here are 5 properties. Let's have a campaign, vote which one you want Bluepoint to work on next.
At least it gets people talking, right?
Exactly, right?
And who knows? They may just look at that and be like, "Oh wow, they really like these 3. Okay, well, Bluepoint, you handle this. Naughty Dog, you're not really doing anything right now. Hey, you want to churn out a new Jack and Daxter? Like, you just go with it."
Yeah, I think that's I think that's where I see this one going. Although, how do you feel about this being like? I know they haven't announced the Bluepoint, but how do you feel about them announcing Housemarque just via a tweet?
As in what?
Well, I'm thinking about this, and like this is a huge announcement. Like they just purchased a new studio. There's a new one under the umbrella, and they announced it as a tweet. Like this would be something that would be awesome for them to be like, if they had done an E3-esque presentation.
You think that would be an E3 announcement?
It wouldn't be like a tentpole of it, but if they were just saying like, hey guys, we are investing in the studios, and we've just purchased Housemarque. Here's what, like, they did really well. Like, it's just something that they could have had in a larger convention style show.
Nah,
and I feel like it's weird that
I don't think it would make sense to do it that way. I mean, for most people, we just learned about Bethesda through people tweeting. So I don't think that needs to be like a major announcement. I mean, if they want to do something neat, like say they had an E3 show and they were just like, hey, we're really excited for, the next little piece of DLC that's going for Returnal. It's going to be coming out, I don't know, in November. We're also really proud to officially welcome Housemarque to the PlayStation family as like a small offshoot. But that's like the most I'd expect out of them. But I mean, if it's just a tweet, it's the same message. It's just the difference is where it's coming from. And since a lot of people get their news through Twitter, it's a pretty good way to put it.
I don't know. I think it'd be a good way to kind of show your strength if you were doing a show, sort of like, you have the PlayStation logo, like the PlayStation Studios logo pop up, and then you have, Sucker Punch, you have Naughty Dog, you have Insomniac, you have all the different studios popping up, and then you have Housemarque show up, and you have Bluepoint show up, and then they're like, yep, we have 2 new studios in our thing. Returnal did awesome. We really like, what they've done, and they've been working with us for years. They are now part of the family. And then talk about, Bluepoint working with Demon Souls, and, once again, they're joining us as well. And I just feel like it kind of goes with that message of like, hey, Microsoft isn't the only one that's growing. And then, I don't know, that's kind of where I'm seeing it would go.
I just don't see it being of importance to us. That sounds more like a business meeting, like the shareholders thing, being like, look, we've acquired these people, we're growing as a company. To me, you getting Housemarque or Bluepoint doesn't make a difference to me in terms of my buying power. If you buy Square Enix, you better fucking announce that as big as loud as you can, because that's a pretty big deal. But the guys who make Returnal or the guys who did the Demon Souls remake, no offense to them, like I said, but that's not something that's going to make people go immediately to Twitter and be like, holy shit, they just announced Housemarque. It'll just be like, okay, but what's the fucking big reveal you guys got at the end of this thing? Like, no one cares.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it,
like
but
that,
no one's going to care at a video.
Yeah,
like, I can imagine the Twitch chat right there just putting sleepy emotes or saying who the fuck cares in the just over and over in the chat, because all they want are game reveals. I wouldn't want to waste time and energy in an E3 presentation for an announcement that could have easily been done in a tweet or even just a press release that like IGN or somebody could have done.
Yeah, you probably actually get people who would just be like, wait, they weren't part of Sony already?
There's also that confusion with the casual audience, yeah, too.
That's true. Any sort of closing thoughts. What do you think's next for anything like what's next for these developers or anything like that?
If Bluepoint is doing some new Metal Gear stuff, I'm curious to see where that goes. That's the only thing I can honestly say, because I've never really liked Metal Gear Solid, but 5 was really fun. So maybe a remake might be a way for me to kind of tip my toes back in there and see if maybe I'd like them more. But
see, Metal Gear Solid 5 suffered from the same problem with me that you had with Ghost of Tsushima, is that I felt the gameplay was fun but very repetitive, and the story just made no sense, and I'm like, I'm out.
See, I would have said the same thing until I was able to have a dog run around with a knife in its throat and going attacking people.
Yeah.
And also, there is nothing more fun to me than playing the game of sedating everybody and playing the game of, are you good enough for me to kill you or not?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, if they did make a Metal Gear like the original one, I'd give it a shot. I feel like that's one of the things in my gaming catalog.
I'd be curious enough to try, but I mean, in terms of like Housemarque, like Returnal is one of those things that, like, if it drops below $20 or is like one of the PlayStation greatest hits ones where they drop it, maybe I'll look then. Maybe it's free on PlayStation Plus somewhere down the road. But like, I don't see myself in any rush to go play that game, unfortunately. Even though I've seen it looks like a lot of fun, but it's not the kind of thing that I can imagine dropping a lot of money on.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before. I think that $70 price point for it really hurt it, just because
I mean, think it did for the people that it would have interested.
Sorry.
For us,
I'm not saying I'm not saying it hurt it in the sense of like, oh, it could have been awesome and it failed because of it. But I think like there are a lot of people like you and I who are interested and curious about it, but it is a very niche style game for a very niche audience, and so a lot of people like us are saying, yeah, I'd love to try it, but I'm not prepared to drop.
So basically the difference is they would have had more copies sold if it was cheaper rather than, the people who got it.
Exactly. And I think there's going to be a second wave of people, like once it gets its big discounts and a second wave of people start playing it, there'll be another group kind of,
because especially now that you can wish list,
awesome.
A lot of people just have it sitting there just being like, one day I'll get you. It's like people with a Steam wish list.
Yeah, honestly, when that game gets to like $40, I'll pull the trigger and I'll give it a shot. But I don't even know if it's going to be my style of game, and I don't want to roll the dice on a full price game.
I mean, it looked a lot like Control when I saw like early gameplay bits of it, and I love the rapid like fighting nature of Control. So I feel like it'd be a very interesting way of going about it.
Yeah, for me, it's the roguelike aspect that just kind of kills me. Like, I don't have the time or the patience to go through a roguelike.
That's why you play shorter ones like Crypt of the Necrodancer, where it can take you like 5 minutes and you're still happy with yourself.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like the fact that what I've heard is, you can be hours into a run and then die and have nothing to show for it. And my gaming time is too precious in the sense of I have so little of it. So,
well, don't play Monster Hunter then.
No, I'm not playing Monster Hunter. Don't worry. Any sort of closing thoughts on this one?
No, I think I've already given everything I got.
All right. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think. Are you guys excited for the upcoming, acquisition of these two studios? Where do you think their future lies? And did you play Returnal? Are we totally off the mark? Should we be playing it right now? Let us know.